Welcome to the American Made and Paid Show, the home of free speech and independent thought.
The big story is freedom of speech is really in trouble. The far left knows that at any time they can call for a sponsor boycott of anyone they despise.
It is right here, right now, where you'll get your weekly dose of unfiltered truth.
It's non-negotiable. Pre-existing conditions will be protected. This president has said this as a candidate.
Insight.
Very few people I know could have handled it. We can never, ever let this happen to another president again.
And information that challenges the American way of life.
Welcome, everybody, to the American Made and Paid Show. Zach here, back with Professor Dreg. There's a lot of things we can talk about here as the Democrat Party kind of moves further and further to left, not just with the Democrat squad, with a lot of their statements, but also how one of the Democrat forerunners like Joe Biden is actually putting forth something that's going to be more global in its nature. This is definitely what we would interpret, at least from Trump's perspective, as a bit of a punchback when it comes to nationalism and everything. Joe Biden actually said certain things that I want to bring up real quick, and that he promised to organize a big global summit for democracy to renew the spirit and shared purpose of the nations of the free world. And it would be basically to fight back against nationalism, illiberal tendencies, authoritarianism. I wanted to bring this up because it's still the same whole Tower of Babel type stuff. I think whether we want it or not, right, inevitably that's where the world is sliding towards. And I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on that. It's just the same globalist push, I should say, Oh no, I can't hear you now. Your mic is like all the way down. You got to turn it up.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when I actually hear what you just said, I automatically jump into economics, because that's what it boils down to. It's Joe Biden trying to control the economy, but this whole global democracy, whatever. How can one country or one person control the entire planet's democracy? That just doesn't make any sense. And unless you control their economy. If you can control their economy, well, then you can control their quote unquote democracy. That's what lobbyists do. And it sounds that that's what Joe Biden is literally trying to do. He's working on behalf of because I want to define globalists, because you hear a lot of people saying that, the globalist Biden's working for the
open borders, kind of basically taking down, they don't believe in borders. They want American identity to be compromised. It's not something that's going to be nationalist in its tendencies, which is conserving, right? Like it's the opposite of conservatism of what we're talking about. So, which is why a lot of these rights get violated. That's why you won't hear them talk about anything in regards to crimes done by illegal aliens or reinforcement of constitutional values, because you need constitutional values to maintain national borders. You just do, right? Part of the whole Voting Rights Act, a lot of these things are all inherent and part of conservatism. And why I bring this up, because progressives have conservative tendencies, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. That's the thing, too.
Tim Pool is a perfect example of this. He really is. He's a hard leftist, but he claims to be center left, and he doesn't agree with any of the Democratic candidates except for Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. And no, not Tulsi Gabbard, the chick from Hawaii. What's her name again?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Okay, yeah. So it's Tulsi Gabbard. So he agrees with both of them, but he agrees with Trump more than any other candidate beyond those two. And he still won't vote for Trump. He'll just stick with the Democrats. And that's just what progressives do. And most of them are, God, I mean, well, the listeners know who progressives are at this point.
Right.
But I don't want to just gloss over the term globalists, because globalists, wait, hold on. Anyway, so a globalist, they're actually corporations. whether it's for defense contracts, because our weapons are actually made in the private sector.
Right.
You know, our jets, our tanks, you know, they're made in the private sector. So everything is privatized. So when we say corporations, it's not just corporations like Volkswagen or Mercedes or General Motors or Toyota. It's also companies like, you know, like any like Boeing or Lockheed Martin. You know, those are globalist companies.
Right.
Google, well, that's an obvious one, but you know what I mean. So Joe Biden is literally working on behalf of corporations that have no regard to any human rights.
And
It's
I think
not
that I'm glad you bring that up, because that widens the perspective a little bit. Constantly, you'll hear Democrat pushes, right? Democrat policy reform is all about dismantling monopolies, right? Not giving corporations so much power, but in reality, because like take defense contracts, for example, right? They work in the interests of a global agenda, even though people don't know it. So people will talk about how, oh, we're going to have disregard for this type of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, to collect my thoughts here, he's running on the antithesis of all of that. But people just don't know any better.
Well, but think about this. What is the dream of every progressive? Answer: the government to control every aspect of your life. But since the people, we like, just as Americans or Christians or whatever, we hate the government. We do. Most Christians really believe God first, God before anything.
Sure.
It's God first, family second, or something like that. Every progressive knows this. So what do? You get the people addicted to their services, like Tinder or whatever apps are on, like Friends with what's that, the Candy Crush Friends saga,
Right.
Whatever it is, you get addicted to that. And while they collect your data and all that other, like, the people are willingly giving away their data for free. And therefore, you can control every aspect of their life. Google has that ability. Facebook has that ability. And the government wants that ability. So what's the closest thing Joe Biden can dream of? Fascism. So if the government can control
owning the means of production, and I see it. That makes perfect sense. Wow.
Third party.
Yeah.
Progressive globalist agenda, and that's what globalists are. Globalists.
If you are truly a conservative, right, and this is why I kind of make sense of this now. A lot of conservatives who get deplatformed by the left, get deplatformed by Facebook and everything, complain about a violation of free speech. The reason why that never really bothers me is because I've always believed that these are their platforms. They own it. Facebook has every right to kick you off if they want to, and people like, Laura Loomer will complain that, oh, Facebook took away my profile, now I can't do anything. Well, that's just the way it is.
Or you can create your own Facebook.
Or you create your own, exactly. You develop your own platform. Well, people say, well, I just don't want to do it. Well, you know what? You're playing by their rules because they own the platform. I don't think, here's the thing, even though I don't think it's right, what I disagree with Facebook is when there's a clear bias, right? Where certain forms of speech get censored. Like if it's heavy left leaning and there's pedophilia, hey, they'll run that stuff, right? But they won't run it if you're nationalist, if you're conservative. If the standard applied to those folks as well, then I could get behind that. That's what I disagree with. But at the same time, Facebook has a right to run its platform the way they want to, and in a weird way, you got to play by their rules. And if you don't want to, then don't have any part in it. Don't get on Facebook. Don't use it. That's my,
You are correct. But the thing is, it is amazing though, because I want to add to what you say, because I know this is not what you meant, but let's just pretend, because I could hear some idiots in the background saying, oh, so is Zach saying if a conservative is a pedophile, that's the only time Facebook will go against it, and pedophilia is good, or so, if it's for the right? What are you trying to say? No, but the point is this: Facebook is supposed to be a neutral platform. It's but they're actually a publisher. They are literally a publisher, but they're hiding behind these laws that protect the phone company, that protect the cable companies, because they're not just providing, access to the internet. They're literally are publishers, but somehow, some way they get protections like if they're not. And that's why I can't stand Facebook, because they're skating the rules. They get all of these protections, because there's the thing, in theory, conservatives do have a right to sue for discrimination.
Sure.
And because they have because basically Facebook is protected under First Amendment rights, the same way First Amendment practice, the same way AT&T is protected by the First Amendment.
Sure.
They just are. God, because I'm not really explaining it good enough. But long story short, the phone company has to provide every single person with a telephone,
right,
regardless of what they're going to do with that telephone. If they're going to commit crime.
Yeah. I've always wondered that, because phone companies, it's like, man, that almost seems like a right. They give you access to a telephone. It's just everybody has that.
Protected. It's protected by the government. So you have, so the government, and long story short, the root of why those companies get protected comes from the First Amendment. All of those rights, because that's what they're providing services, to any and all people for whatever purpose, whether it's religious purposes or, they need to communicate, basically. So they're helping people with their communications, and communications is a protected right.
Right.
But when Facebook does something and they limit access to people for the way they communicate, then they become a publisher. Like a newspaper,
Sure.
like the newspaper, like there's freedom of the press, right?
Yeah, right.
But a newspaper can be sued if they don't have counterpoints or they slander you. So, and that's the difference between Facebook and, like, Facebook can never be sued for slander.
Right.
Or they can't be sued for discriminating against the right, because they hide, it's our rules of terms of service. Yeah, but see, AT&T doesn't have that, because they are not a publisher. They are a service. They're it's called public utility, but technically it's not really, because the phone is not a public utility. Like, you don't have a right to a telephone. You really don't. But somehow, some way, it's a public utility, and that's the part, But so Facebook and Google,
it's kind of like if Facebook, think of it like, I think of it to extend on your example to get our listeners to understand. It's like it's like having the right to the post office. You know what I mean? It's just like, what if the post office found out you were just some guy and they just refused to send your packages? Because that's technically what it is, right? Think about when people get kicked off of payment processors. Can you imagine getting kicked off by PayPal? And then eventually getting kicked off by like MasterCard or Visa? Like, those guys will not run your transactions because of that. And like, it would be like the post office saying, you know what? You're not going to receive mail, and you're not going to be able to send mail. If you really think about it, that is because these things have become public utilities in our lives over time. You don't have a right to them, but you kind of need them. Like, you need a billing address. You need a shipping address. You just need that stuff. Like, how are you going to, if anything, right? Say you don't want to live with a telephone, you need an email. I just got to be plain and simple. Every platform on the internet, what does it require? An email. To sign up for anything, you need an email. So,
but that's the thing. Literally, this is a literal example. Emails have replaced the telephone. They just have. The internet has effectively made phones ineffective, which is why they're smartphones. Smartphones are not telephones. They are computers with the ability to call people.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No, there's nothing. That's absolutely correct.
And oh man, I'm telling you now, it's amazing what Facebook is doing, or what or YouTube or anybody's doing.
Well,
they can get away with that.
Well, here's the thing, though. The reason why people don't really I guess there's not a lot of awareness around this unless you're in conservative circles, is because it oftentimes gets ignored. People get deplatformed before they even have a chance to really spread it out and have the masses understand about the brainwashing, right, or the manipulation of information that's going on. And that's the point, is to, because a lot of people don't know this. You know, you don't get to over 2 billion users on the internet unless you, to some degree, could understand what information gets transferred and transmitted to certain people and what doesn't. Like, I'm willing to bet that with like the New Zealand mosque shootings, right? Man, that is specifically ranked in Facebook to go to more people. Why? Because of Islamophobia. That's a leftist thing, right? People think, we're anti-guns now, so they're pushing an agenda. But like, if a bunch of Christians get shot, like, here's the thing: the Notre Dame Cathedral ranked for what, like 1 day, and that was it. That was it. And yet, Christian hate crimes Christians are more persecuted in this world than Jews or Muslims. It's a fact.
And what's funny is how it does not get reported. And for examples like that, it's just amazing how people don't treat Facebook as a publisher. They have to treat them as a publisher. They are not a public utility. So they should not get public utility protections. They shouldn't, because they are not open for all. They're not. But anyway, so I want to get back to Biden. And the reason why what you brought up is so important, because believe it or not, Ted Cruz and AOC agree, and they're trying to pass legislation that politicians cannot become lobbyists once they leave office.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important, because Joe Biden literally, and this is literal, this is not that's not a metaphorical speech. It's not a dog whistle. It's a literal communications to all lobbyists and saying, hey, look, lobbyists of the world, I'm Joe Biden. I need your money to get your agenda across. And that's literally what he's saying.
Right.
That is the literal translation to what he's saying. He's making a call because, look, Joe Biden is the front runner. More than likely, he's going to get the nomination. Why? Because Kamala Harris has no stances. She's a horrible person. She's going to be destroyed by Trump. Everybody recognizes that. Because, dude, can you imagine Trump bringing up Willie Brown? Hey, you banged Willie Brown. You were a mistress of Willie Brown.
That's all it would take. That's all it would take.
And yeah, no, trust me. And when they start showing a picture of old Willie Brown in his 80s, oh my God. And then they're going to say, you banged that old ass dude? Wow.
I mean, the thing is, how do more people don't know that? I mean, I guess people would justify it by going, well, they were dating, so it doesn't matter. But
no, he was married. And Willie Brown literally said this in a Sacramento interview for some kind of like Sacramento press like gala. And Willie Brown goes, yeah, I was having an affair with Kamala Harris, and then I got her a position in my office when he was lieutenant governor.
That's funny. I like how Willie Brown, because he's old now, he just doesn't care anymore, so he can just say these things. Like, I helped you then, but yeah, you know, I was married, had that affair, we banged, you know, gave you a job.
No, but you know what? Him being old, it might have just slipped down. Like, yeah, no, because the way he said it.
That's what I'm referring to, because I remember seeing that in an interview where he says it so nonchalantly. That's the funny part about it. It's not the fact that it like went down, but it's like, I just don't care anymore. So it's almost like, you know how like an old man will just like rant and just like let random things slide. It's like, I can't think because I'm old. It's not, but that's kind of what's going on here is.
But you know what's really funny? He just flat out admits that they're having an affair, and then after they had the affair, like when they were then he got the position. It wasn't like she got the job first. It was she had the affair, then she got the job. And that's what makes it so amazing. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is insane. But yeah, there's no way Kamala Harris is gonna win. What's her name? Elizabeth Warren. What did she do today?
She's a
did something-
senator.
Yeah, but she did something silly.
Well, we talked about student debt yesterday, right? And that's her big.
But
thing
she
running.
literally did something today about immigrants or something like that. Like,
I haven't checked it out, but
yeah, I forgot, but she ain't gonna win because she on top of the student debt, she made something else, and she's basically trying to do something with the illegals and just help them in. No, but look, if you know anything about Mexicans hate Guatemalan immigrants. They hate El Salvadorian immigrants. Every Mexican in Mexico, they know this. They hate immigrations. They hate all these illegal immigrants. That's in the old days, they used to just shoot them. but and when I say old days, that's like the 80s and the 90s. So, but they don't do that anymore, obviously, because.
So let's go back to Biden and Kamala Harris and all this, because this is all very, very. When we talked about the globalist aspect, right, dismantling American nationalism, because that's what he's basically running on. Can't really imagine anything else he'd be for. I mean, he was Obama's vice president, so it's only reasonable that he'll have some of the same sentiments.
Well,
it's
it
funny
goes
how
back to what you just said. Think about it. He is trying. What? Okay, so the number one question any normal, sane person would ask: what does the United States have to do with global democracy? Every country is a sovereign country. So why is Joe Biden advocating or saying anything about global democracy? How is that? How did that even impact the United States? Seriously.
well,
But nobody asked those types of questions. So that's why people need to understand this is the literal call for lobbyists to lobby him from all over the world. Because
I see. No, you're right. Because that's basically like him sending a pager out, like, "Hey, give me money because I'm gonna strip away American sovereignty for this," right?
Yeah, not just American sovereignty, but seriously, can you imagine? Like, because I know people don't want to think about this, but when people hear Kaiser, they think, oh yeah, that's Kaiser Permanente health, good health providers. But believe it or not, Kaiser Permanente were the ones that built the ovens for the Jews in Germany.
No.
I'm not kidding.
Wait, I gotta look that up. That's
yeah, look it up. And they have those same Kaiser ovens on Shark Island in Africa.
How do you even know this stuff? That's so random. That's so that's like one of the most trivial things. Like, turns out, founded by Henry Kaiser and Sidney Garfield. Wait. Oh no, you're not wrong.
I'm never wrong, my friend.
Wait a minute. I gotta look this up. So,
dude, and if you look at Shark Island in Africa, it's amazing. Like, before they tested it on the Jews, they had this place called Shark Island, and they built the ovens there, and they were cooking all them Africans in that spot first. I shouldn't be laughing, but
that's horrible.
Well, because, dude, that's how horrible people are. Like, dude, people just don't care. Like, I'm telling you, I've seen some bad people in my time, but it's amazing what Kaiser's done, and they're just as bad as they've ever been, but they pretend not to be bad, and that's the scary thing. So you have all of these people pushing this agenda with Muslims and whatever, because think about it, in the old days, and that's why I think I said it here, but if people look up the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and Adolf Hitler, their connection, and how the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was influencing Hitler as his spiritual guide, then you'll know why they attacked the Jews, how the Arabs went and attacked the Jews in Russia, and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't just Hitler. He wasn't just acting alone. He had Kaiser. He had all these people behind him. And that's the thing. Joe Biden is literally begging for international lobbyists to interfere in our elections. And he's not even shy about it. But what does he call it? Global democracy.
So this is amazing. This is such a great example of pot calling the kettle black, because everybody blames Trump's win on Russian collusion when in reality Democrats ask for it.
Yeah, but the amazing thing is AOC recognizing it and calling it out. That's what's so bizarre. And I'm thinking, aren't you the chick that's an actress that some lobbyist did this for you? The guy from the Young Turks and all his lobbyists.
Yeah, but that's the thing about progressives is they can never keep their values consistent. The reason why it works in this advantage is because Joe Biden's an old white man. You can't have that. You got to have your brown lady.
Yeah, she wants it for herself.
Yeah, no, but it's not just that. If you put any progressive up against, if you want to talk about public opinion here and do Joe Biden next to Kamala Harris, they will pick Kamala Harris over Joe Biden simply because of identity politics. That's how they play. So it has nothing to, you know what I mean? That's how it works.
But this is this perfect segue for that Jamaican lady.
Yes, I was going to say.
AOC.
And here's the thing. The reason why I think a lot of people are excited for, what's her name? Her name's Scherie Murray, right? She just announced yesterday. If you guys haven't checked out this Republican New York State, right now, state legislator person, she's running for Congress, challenging AOC. Sure. But here's the thing. I will say this right now because conservatives and Democrats feel the same way. If that lady were a white lady, she would not get as much attention as she's getting now. And I'm just being honest. I think she looks great. I don't know much about her, but the rise
Jamaican.
to the rise to the top is because this woman, she may be very capable. I'm not saying she's not, but Scherie Murray fits the diversity quota of New York and happens to be a Republican. So she's even more loved because of the fact that, hey, you're not just some typical white lady. You're an immigrant from Jamaica challenging AOC. What better candidate? And I'm saying this as a good thing. I'm like, if she were a white lady, would she win? No. You and I both know there's no way that would fly. But because she's a Jamaican immigrant and she happens to be well-spoken and competent, I think she's got a shot. Even though it's 70% Democrat in that area.
No, but she's going to win because everybody knows Jamaicans. Because okay, so this is like a joke, like an Eddie Murphy joke, or I forgot if it was Richard Pryor or Eddie Murphy. But it's an old school joke and everybody on the streets knows this. And this is why only African Americans can get reparations and not like foreign, like Jamaicans or anybody else.
Nigerians, Jamaicans, none of those.
But here's the thing. The doors are open for African immigrants. They just are. And everybody, like the joke that Eddie Murphy told or Richard Pryor was, Jamaicans, if you know anything about Jamaicans they're not happy with just 12 jobs because, if they don't have 18, 19 jobs, they're unhappy people. They have to be working and they always making money, But that's everybody knows that's how Jamaicans are. But in reality, Jamaican women work hard like that, and the men, they just get high. And because like Jamaican men are known for smoking weed and banging white girls because white girls love the accent, No, because just Jamaicans have like, it's not like an English British accent, but it's like an island type of accent or something like that. And just the girls like they like Tahiti, they like the Bahamas. It's just a romantic area. So when those black dudes talk like that, the Jamaicans sad, but the guys, if we're just going with stereotypes, the women, they never sleep. They just work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even when they're sleeping, they're thinking about a job. But that's how it is on the streets. And I'm telling you now, this woman is going to win because if you just look, the Queens, the Bronx, they're all ghetto. It's just reality. So stereotypes is going to help this lady win because AOC is a Puerto Rican. Everybody, no, I shouldn't say this, but Puerto Ricans are known for being lazy. It's just what happens. So you got a woman who has a stereotype of working hard, and that's all they do. They don't lie, they don't steal, they work hard. And Puerto Ricans are the opposite of Jamaicans. They're liars, they're thieves.
Okay, come on now. That's gonna trigger some
But
folks.
it's the truth. That's just look. That's how we survive. Like, you got to survive on stereotypes. You know what I mean? It's like when you hear me talk, everybody used to call me Oreo because of how I spoke. Black on the outside.
I'm not gonna lie. The first time we ever spoke on the phone, I had a hard time believing you were a black guy.
No, but that's just the reality. It's everybody has those stereotypes because I'm non-threatening to any dude on the street. I'm non-threatening because of my voice. They go, "Oh, you're educated." You damn right I am. So listen. And they do. I can walk into any like town hall, for black, because there's something here in the Fillmore. I started speaking, and everybody, let the educated brother speak. And that's because one dude starts rhyming, right? And then some other black guys, man, don't start rhyming. So that's when I started speaking, when that dude was rhyming. And then anyway, so then, when they're trying to cut me off, the other dudes just said, nah, let the educated brother speak, and blah, blah, blah. So if you're educated, speak like me. The stereotype is I'm an Oreo. Like, I don't have any street experiences. I grew up in a white way, and that's why I speak white. And it's the same thing with Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans, negative stereotypes, but it's true. They're known for liars. I mean, come on. They always carry knives. They don't even carry guns. If you're if you're in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, you're going to get stabbed. You might not get shot, but you're going to get stabbed. Everybody knows it. So it's just how it goes. They don't work. They know how to steal cars. They know how to work on cars, steal cars, and they can stab you. And they're lazy. Jamaicans, hardworking. They don't care what kind of work they'll do. They could be janitors, washerwomen, washing dishes. They don't care. As long as they're working, they're going to be working. Driving cabs and like in between fares, they're going to wash some clothes. That's what Jamaicans do. So
she's gonna win based on that.
Well, I mean, because come on, I mean, unless they bring in, the only way this Jamaican's gonna lose is if they start shipping in people who don't live in Queens or the Bronx, because everybody loves stereotypes in those areas. It's just how this isn't like Albany, New York, or even Long Island. Long Island is not really New York. It's like a fancy spot of New York. So, oh man, the Bronx, Brooklyn,
Queens and the Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's all based on stereotypes. Everybody knows it. The Italians think a certain way. Everybody thinks a certain way. You know what I mean? Like every Italian, they all want to be mobsters. You know what I mean? But it's the truth. They all love spaghetti. It's just the truth. Everybody knows it. They love pasta. They just do. Dude, I'm not. If this lady loses, it's only because they were cheating. I guarantee you this. New York is one of the most stereotypical places on the planet. I love New York. I love it. But, it's not a place for kids. You can't raise your kids there. But it's just like San Francisco, though. I mean, San Francisco, but now it's like San Francisco's literally turned, because like Manhattan used to be the place for, like I don't want to call them gays.
Well, one thing I want to add to this while you're thinking of that is the reason why I think this is also fitting is because if you don't vote for this lady, because I know how leftists think. I know how people who don't have brains think. When they're progressives and they're in New York, if you didn't vote for this lady, right, the only reason that most people wouldn't vote for her is because of party affiliation. That would be the only thing in New York. But my hunch is this. She will win because I think she's well-spoken. I think people are sick of AOC. She cost them jobs. She's right. All the claims that she made in her campaign video, she's correct on. So if people are smart, and even though she's a Republican, a lot of these leftists are going to think, if I don't vote for her, I'm either stupid or I'm a racist. And the thing is, both are true. If you really think about it, if you vote for AOC, it's not because you're racist because she's black. You are costing your community jobs. and you're giving it all to a congressperson who wants a raise.
Well,
That's racism. That is real racism, because you are literally taxing your community to give your AOC, your poster girl, more money. That is racism in itself.
Check this out. Your poster girl looks very white, but this Jamaican broad, she got the nappiest hair you will ever see. I mean, her afro ain't even combed right. It's nappy. Like, she has real naps in that head. You don't get any blacker than this woman. Yeah. I mean, she's not dark, but she's light-skinned.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. In a leftist mindset, progressives are going to look at that and go, oh, all the diversity check boxes are checked, and she can speak well, and you know what? She's not going to cost us jobs. See, I think people in the Bronx are sick of that. You know, they're just like, man, like, this AOC girl's cool because she's young, she's hip, I'll vote for her, but she's just a complainer. Oh, I can't pay off my student loans with $190,000 a year. I want a raise in Congress. I want the Green New Deal to cost us all 25,000 jobs in my area. People like you're actually either stupid or racist if you vote for AOC. I'm gonna say it right now.
But here's the other thing too, because this Jamaican knows, and you hate to say things like this, but most black people, and this is just how reality is, they're not even qualified to go to college. So when this woman speaks and say, hey, look, man, I will get you guys job training, real job training. I don't know much because I don't know anything really about New York other than the stereotypes and crime stuff. But I don't know anything about the economy over there other than, you know, like if I have to open up a bar, I could do it. But as far as what normal people do, working at McDonald's, or I have no idea. But she knows New York.
Right.
Dude, she's successful. I don't want to say she's a millionaire, but she's pretty rich, and she's ghetto. Well, I don't want to say ghetto fabulous, but there's this thing called ghetto fabulous. When you make it in the ghetto and you're rich, like you got the best house, the best cars, and you did it legitimately, and she could show all these other people how to do it. And I guarantee you now, when AOC is talking crazy like, oh, I'm gonna get you guys all in college, they don't give a fuck about college. Want to know why? Because they don't even barely graduated high school. You know what I mean? Like when they graduate with their GED,
yeah,
they look, a GED basically says I'm smarter than a 7th grader.
Well, that's also another thing is, a lot of what she's running on is borrowed money. These people don't have problems with student loans. They got problems with welfare. And that's the thing that AOC is doing. She's projecting too much of her own problems onto her constituents. You know what that tells people like you and me and people who are in that community? This girl don't know us. She doesn't know how we live. That is what's going through their heads. They're going, wait a minute. This girl's whining about how she can't pay back her student loans and she wants a raise. Ain't never worked. I mean, she's worked in her life, but it's like bartender, public, I guess, community organizer, whiner, costing us jobs that we could have had 25,000 in our district alone. I mean, the thing is, these are the real numbers here. 70% of people, 74% of people in a nationwide survey recognize people, AOC by name, right? Only 22% view her favorably. My guess is that 22% is not in her district. I don't think people in that district, her constituents, are happy because like they're thinking like, think of you said stereotypes play a role, right? Think about every person of color in that community thinking like, man, like I don't got to worry about student loans. I got welfare. Like, but that's what I'm trying to say is there's a disconnect there. Like she's running on millennial and young person type deals.
But here's the thing.
But
you know, if you really want to win in New York and out of the Bronx or Queens or whatever that district is, all you got to do is this. Men, I'm going to teach you how to be a mechanic, and women, I'll teach you how to be a beautician. And all of them would love you. You would win in a landslide because that's all they're qualified to do. All your mechanics is going to come from those areas. All of your beauticians, all them women working in hair or, you know, nails and stuff.
You got to speak into the mic. I can't quite hear you now.
Okay, all of those people.
Yeah.
Look, the only jobs they're qualified for is to be an auto mechanic for the guys and beauticians for the ladies. That's all she has to offer. Look, I'll teach you guys how to do the internships at these beauty salons and all this other stuff, crazy stuff, but
stuff that you don't need university for.
Exactly. Because look, they're not that smart. I guarantee you this. They're not that smart. Why? Because the majority of them, when I say majority, like about 75%, they're not qualified for college. They're not qualified to do anything. So they should join the military.
And this is so that and all those aspects you described is this individual, because she's a female minority immigrant entrepreneur, and she's not super old either. She's in her 30s. Like it's not, it works out.
Yeah.
Dude, I think you're.
Look at her picture. Look at her picture.
No, I'm looking at it right now. No, but I think it's safe to call it now. I think this person has a very, very good chance. AOC might be dethroned. I'm just worried about if she wins. I don't know how much of that is.
See, but she's not gonna win if she starts talking like the way Sean Hannity talks. She ain't winning shit. But if she's like legit and just goes, "Hey, look, fellas, I could teach you guys how to, work in auto mechanics, start your own auto garage. I could teach you all of that stuff, and I'll make sure we get you federal money. The banks will fund you, and then you guys can go open up a shop, like a mobile shop, like AAA." You guys can work for AAA or do some kind of AAA stuff, and then you guys can go do a mobile auto repair in Albany and come back to the Queens, making all that money. See, if she's smart, talks their language, and she should, because she's Jamaican from there. She knows, and then she'll say, "Come on, it's time for you to stop being." And same thing with the women. I can teach you guys how to do like a mobile, nail salon service, or you guys could work in Manhattan or whatever. Get your training, and she can do this. She'll win. But if she starts talking like Sean Hannity, like, "Oh, we got to lower tax," man, niggas don't be paying no taxes.
You're right. You're right.
Why are they going to care about tax cuts? So, but they want is money. And that's what's this, because Jamaicans know how to make money. They just do. But, a Black American.
So like, she can't be a typical talking head. She can't be a GOP talking head.
Never.
It doesn't work. People there are going to smell it, right? And I think AOC, I mean, okay, so here's my prediction, and this is where the thought comes in, right? AOC won because of two reasons. Number one, the actual Democrat that was in that seat got lazy. That's the one big thing. Joe Crowley got lazy. That's what happened. So with her
for many, many years,
right? With one enough pool and a fresh face, a decent looking face, a fresh face, good energy, she didn't get voted in on the crazy things that we know her for now. She got voted in for being young, hip, and appealing to that crowd. And you have to understand that when she rose to prominence, it was because she won the primary there. It's not because she won the election. She won the primary. So obviously that's going to surge up her popularity. And she dethroned.
You got to remember who was behind her.
Yeah, Justice Democrats and the Young Turks and all those people. She was literally a paid actor. She's literally a paid actor.
Remember this. That guy from the Young, I forget his, I can't pronounce his name properly.
Cenk Uygur.
He's the one that started that Young Justice book.
Justice Democrats, yeah.
Yeah, and then he got booted because they didn't like him. He got kicked out of his own organization.
The only thing I'm worried about is people who vote party affiliation in New York. That's the only thing I'm worried about, because the data is true. Most people vote their party affiliation. Most people are registered Democrats there. That's my only hurdle.
Well, 70% Democrat. That's the problem. Yeah. So she's going to have to get half of those Democrats to vote for her in order to win. Because the Republicans don't like, look, you gotta, Black people just don't vote. So like, Black conservatives, they're like, I ain't gonna vote because it's a waste of my vote. So unless you can motivate half of the, that
if she
Democrats
goes around and stirs up and takes it to the streets like AOC does, don't go on Fox News. Forget Fox News. Focus on the.
That's how I heard about it.
No, I know she did, but don't make that be a regular thing where you're just coming on and talking. If she puts in the work and goes into the streets and does it grassroots style, I think she'll be fine.
Of course, but think about it. And that's the problem. She could be like those two Diamond and Silk people You know, they don't talk to the people in the streets. They're like Candace Owens.
Well, they're commentators, yeah.
Yeah, well, see, but that's the problem. These people, and when I say these people, I'm talking about the black conservatives. Black conservatives do not talk to people on the streets. They don't. They only talk to conservatives.
And you're right, because a lot of real black conservatives have made this comment where it's like, stop going on Laura Ingraham and actually take it to the streets and help people. You know, Candace Owens gets criticism because if you go to a Blexit event, it's all white people. It's like there's like 5 or 6 black people in the front row, and that's about it. And I'm not saying that to discredit her. I mean, I have my criticism of Candace Owens, but it's supposed to be a Blexit movement. But it's held. It's not. She's not going like door to door and going, "Hey guys, this is why we believe in what we believe." She's not evangelical in her cause. She is a money-making machine, is what she is. And the best way to do that is to go on Sean Hannity, go on Laura Ingraham.
Seriously, I honestly don't think she's a Christian. It's the truth. Like, I get it because I'm not a true Christian either, but at least I understand that conservative, because think about it. Where does the First Amendment come from? I mean, obviously it comes from Jesus, but it's when Jesus said about throwing the stone, the first stone, that's literally a part of the First Amendment. That's the whole thing about, your freedoms of to practice whatever it is, to your freedom to, be different. Because that's basically freedom of speech is your freedom to be different. Your freedom to practice your religion is the freedom to be different. The Constitution wasn't built for the majority. The Constitution was built to protect the minority or the one person who's completely different than everybody else. And where does that come from? It comes from that story when they were going to kill whoever that person, I don't know if it was a lady or a guy, but they're going to kill that person. And Jesus says, hey, those who have never sinned, cast the first stone. And that's where it comes from. Literally, that's the First Amendment. Right. Is that story. And people don't even recognize that. That does not come from a Jewish perspective or a Muslim perspective. It doesn't. The First Amendment is literally the foundation of what Jesus was talking about. But then, the founding fathers rewrote it to include everybody or whatever, because I think they understood what Jesus was talking about. So, most people, like, what's her face? Candace Owens. Like, if you're not a Christian, you cannot be a real conservative. I know that without a doubt, because if you just listen to those parables, and then you could pick which one is the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, and what's older, Jesus or the Constitution, and that's just how it works. That's how you break down science.
Yeah. And I don't think that a lot of these people, like the Charlie Kirks and the Candace Owens, it's like it's popular to profess that you're a believer in God. But one thing I'll say is this: it's the demons acknowledge that God exists. Saying I believe in God don't mean anything. But that's what I'm saying. Saying you believe in God doesn't really mean anything. What do you mean by that? You believe in Jesus? You believe he's your savior? It's like there's a whole bunch of things, right? And I mean, we don't have to go down that road, but I just want to wrap it up on this note. I think that when it comes to this globalist front and presidential candidates, what most people don't seem to understand is that the very thing that progressives run on is the one thing that they're going to take advantage of, because that's how it works, right? Bernie Sanders is all about break up the monopolies and everything. It's like that's what got him there in the first place. Fascism is just the government owning the means of production. Right? Relinquishing control of corporations for government is not the way to go when it comes to doing these things. And I also just think it's hilarious just to say that if Kamala Harris, does win the nomination, it's just going to be a funny interaction because Willie Brown really just spilled the beans. And this is not something like when she says she denied it in the early or the late 90s or whatnot. This is something from January of 29 where Willie Brown basically was just like, yep, I dated her. while I was dating somebody else, and I was 60, she was 29, and and it's just like that. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't know how that's gonna be something that the American people are gonna go, yeah, you know what, we're gonna go with that. We're gonna roll with that.
No, but I want to add to what you said about the demon thing and Christ as Savior. Biden wants to be the savior of everybody. I'm telling you, progressives are all atheists. They all are. And they all believe they're God. And they want to be the people's savior. Seriously, they have a Messiah complex. All of them do. And that's why, I didn't even know, like I never even heard of that demons acknowledge that God exists. I'm thinking, well, yeah, they have to, because, like an atheist, you can tell if an atheist doesn't does an atheist believe in the devil? Most don't. Like, why would the devil? This is a voodoo stuff. You guys are silly. But obviously, if God exists, then you got to believe that the devil's real. But most people, they don't acknowledge that. So I never even heard that expression before, that even demons know that God's like, well, yeah, because it's from the same realm. But adding to that, the motivation and the why, because a lot of people will say, oh, why did Joe Biden say that? Why would he do it? Well, the money is just one aspect. But he has plenty of money. So what's he really saying? What's he really want? He wants to be worshipped. That's why he's doing what he's doing. Think about it. Trump is not being worshipped. He's being vilified. He's being crucified for his actions. Every single word that Trump says, he's being crucified for it. But Biden, he's going to be worshipped. And that's, it's interesting when you talk about that demon stuff, because I'm thinking, yeah, that's Biden right there, man. You just described Joe Biden. That's what he's going to do. That's why they do what they do, the whole globalist movement, because they want to take over the world that they've created in his own image. Trust me on this. Obama, Joe Biden. Oh, these dudes are, I'm telling you, I know evil. That's them. These guys are straight up evil. But either way, all right, I guess those are my final thoughts. But
yeah, no, I agree. And I think that this is going to be an interesting thing. I'm going to be following this Republican candidate over the next few months, seeing where she goes with it. I mean,
Jamaican, I'm still laughing about that.
Well, what we did on this show today was we basically talked about globalist agenda, and we also talked about perpetuating stereotypes, because you're not wrong. People, even though they don't want to admit it, conservatives and progressives do the same thing. We run and we lend our support based off of what we're familiar with. A lot of times that's stereotypes. Here's the deal, though. You throw a hardworking, well-spoken individual into the mix, it's probably going to be all right. You're going to gravitate and go, you know what, I don't care. And here's the thing. If we don't, even though we don't want to admit this, you hate to say things like this, but the race thing does play a role. Because if it was just some white lady, not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. If it were a white lady or a white man, there's not a chance. Especially if it's coming from the Republican side. Nah. But if you're black, you're Republican, and I'm not, this is not to discredit her. I think she's great. I'm not discrediting her, but we have to understand that conservatives also play identity politics. That's just what they do. A lot of them, I'm willing to bet, if you sample it, are just happy to see that it's a Jamaican. And dismantling AOC's politics, like, you can't really get any worse than AOC. You can only get better, right? So I think she's got a fair shot. I think it's great, and I'm gonna, definitely.
Wait, before you end, I gotta say this, because you brought up a good point about Republicans and identity politics. I don't know if you heard this, but yesterday during Trump's rally, they started chanting, "Send her back."
Yeah, the Ilhan Omar thing. Oh man, that was a whole other thing.
But the thing is, now
he's actually. But see, here's the thing. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because he said, "I will try to certainly stop it." Trump said, if that happens again, I will try to stop it. That's the thing. That's another great thing we need to understand is, people are also taking his tweets out of context. He never singled her out, but this is
never did.
Journalists do. He just said, if you don't like our country, go home. If you don't like it, go back. But here's the deal. People, and this is what I don't like about conservatives too. Like, I get it that we all know in our heads that that's who he's referring to, but people will blame race. People will single her out. And unfortunately, Republicans are bad at this too. It's like,
well, no, but the Republicans right now are like, oh, I disavow that chant. Oh, that chant was bad because they're stupid. Like, I don't understand why not guys like you or
and
anybody.
well, here's the thing. That's the problem is everybody's going to hold Trump responsible for people chanting that when the reality is there's a lot
that's not racist though. That's the point. It's like, but these Republicans are so stupid. They go, oh, that's racist. How? Why is that even racist? Why is that even racist?
It's not. It's not.
Stupidest thing. And that's why you're right. They play identity politics, but they lose at it. Don't play in a game that you guys don't understand. Oh my God. It's just, look, Republicans are gutless. That's why Trump's our president, because Trump has guts. He don't care. You know, he can take it. He takes the punishment. He really does. I don't think there's ever been.
But he shrugs it off. He's just like, no, I don't understand why people are acting this way. They're so unprofessional in all their ways. And he just goes on with his day. It's almost like him going bankrupt and dealing with real estate deals were more difficult than what he's doing now. I mean, he works more. He's got to work more now. But I mean, you take it from him. This guy knows what it's like to lose everything and get it all back. So to him, he's like, it's part of the job.
You know, without a doubt.
So, you know how yesterday we talked about self-love? The last thing I want to end the show on was I was watching an interview with him, and he literally said, like, this was like from yesterday before he got in his airplane, he was like, well, I love what I do. I just love it. I love people. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love what I do. They're all doing a fantastic job. Those were his words. But Arnold said that in his speech. He's like, you got to have a purpose. You have to love what you do. That's why he's got guts, because he loves it. It's people think, oh man, he's got to deal with all this. He enjoys it. He actually, it gives him energy, and he can go out and do rallies 5 days a week.
Yep. No, and that's true. And that's not the first commandment from the Jewish Bible, but that's Jesus' first commandment. Love God as you would love yourself. He talks about self-love. I'm telling you, that is the key. You got to work at loving yourself. I'm telling you, it ain't easy, because a lot of times you do things and you feel shame and people dwell on that. But that, I'm telling you, we should talk about that soon again, like about, shame and guilt and crap like that, like feeling bad for yourself after you do something bad. You know what I mean? Yeah. But because that's oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I guess we should end it. But
yeah, well, thank you guys for tuning into today's show. If you guys like what you heard, please go on to iTunes and leave us a review. It really means a lot. And I know you've probably noticed some ads on this podcast, but hey, gotta monetize, right? So thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you all soon.